Hello again, I'm Dave the Piper and welcome back to my channel. We're talking all things bagpipes. Right now, I'm talking about the major components of a bagpipe. In earlier videos, we've touched on the bag, we've touched on the blowpipe, and we've touched on the drones. And so the last main component of any bagpipe, and it is the critical component, and it is one of the most challenging components, is the chanter. The word chanter comes from the French canter, or to sing. So it's kind of where we get sea chanty from, or sea shanties. The chanter is the only part of the bagpipe on which the piper plays a melody. It's what creates the tune. The other pipes are to get air in and out of the bag, or to provide that steady background drone. In the case of the chanter, on the Highland pipes and all of its variations of small pipes, it's quite simple. It has 8 holes, so you have a thumb hole on the back at the top, and you have 7 holes down here of varying diameter. Some of the chanters flare like this, some have sound holes drilled in the bottom. Now, of course, that would affect the pitch too, but this is all taken into account by the bagpipe manufacturer. And here it's in the stock, but right at the top of the stock, inside the stock, is the reed itself. We'll have another video on the reeds in the future. In the old days, like my first set of pipes came from the mid-70s, and they were all made of African blackwood. This is a beautiful chanter, but I don't use it anymore. They're quite a bit more fragile than the ones today. But this one was made by the R.G. Laurie company. It has a seal put on, applied onto the chanter. And this whole big piece down below, it was called the sole of the chanter, S-O-L-E, like the sole of a shoe. In those days, like, they were all really like big discs like this. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. It was just the way bagpipes were made back then. I mean, it just goes back 100 years or more, 200, 300, 400 years. But it's purely decorative down here. It has nothing to do with the tone of the pipe. Now, for some reason, in the late 70s or early 80s, bagpipe manufacturers started developing chanters made of very hard plastic. I think in the UK it's called polypenco. And you would think that that might produce a lesser tone, but honestly, most pipe bands use plastic chanters today because they can get all the chanters to sound very similar. And instead of being made by hand now, they're made by machine, and they're very durable, and they're virtually maintenance free. So they're much less affected by humidity and temperature when you're performing than these that were made out of African blackwood. Now, you can still get chanters made of African blackwood, and they're still considered premium chanters. There are many pipers who feel like African blackwood chanters have a better sound or tone to them, but I use all of mine now are made of plastic or polypenco. It's kind of funny. This was from my first set of pipes. Then again, during the 80s, it became quite popular to have chanters where they basically removed the entire sole. This used to be a white, like it was an imitation ivory. In the old days, it was actual ivory, and of course, we don't do that anymore. And then they went to like not having any sole on it at all because, again, it's purely decorative, not functional. But we have lots of decorative parts on the pipes. All of these ferrules, ring caps, the ring cap tuning pins, when they're made out of silver engraved, all that's purely decorative. Here's one of the small pipe chanters. They've kind of gone back to having a small sole on their imitation ivory. And then this is my set of Highland bagpipes, and I really love this one. This one has gone back to adding a sole to the chanter, but it's a smaller diameter, it's engraved. I think it looks quite nice, really. It kind of harkens back to the old tradition without being quite so, like eyeglasses in the 80s, So on a chanter, on any Highland bagpipe or its small pipe derivatives, there are only 9 notes. You know what? I have another t-shirt I really love it. It says, "There are only 9 notes. How hard could it be?" Okay, well, it is quite hard to play the pipes. Let me just talk about that scale on the chanter a little bit. Basically have one octave with one note lower. So in the world of piping, we call that note there low A and high A, with a low G down here for grace notes. But you can hear that it's not a chromatic scale. It doesn't, because it has a natural up there in the F. This is why not all pop tunes sound good on bagpipes. Bagpipes have this scale with the natural F, and I got more news for you. I can't do anything about that. I can't do anything about the volume of the bagpipe, and I can't do anything about the scale. So when bagpipes play with other instruments, they pretty much have to bend to what the bagpipe is doing, because there's not a lot of flexibility with the pipes. But there are no mechanical valves like on a flute or a clarinet. It's really quite simple, and I'll just touch on one more thing. We're going to have a future video about not so much how to play the pipes, but how to learn how to play the pipes. But when you see a piper playing, the holes, they get farther apart as you go down the chanter. And so it's almost impossible to use your fingertips on here. So the first thing that we learn as pipers is to keep our fingers straight and bend at this knuckle right here, okay? So you have 3 holes, 3 fingers here. This pinky does nothing. You have a thumb on the back, and you have 4 holes down here. And you can see that's kind of how the configuration is. So check it out next time you're watching a piper, and watch how they have their fingers straight. That chanter kind of cuts across the fleshy part underneath their highest knuckle on the fingers. So there you go. That's all about the chanter. It's not all about it, but it's an introduction to it. And we'll see you next time. Please be sure to like the channel if you like it, and subscribe if you want to hear more.